Hello, and welcome to the Introduction to Humanities 2. This is Humanities 102 from 1400 of the Common Era, which you'll see abbreviated as CE, to present, and I'm Professor Zirk. So today we're going to try to understand the course format, define the humanities, understand why we study the humanities in addition to it being a required GE course and a transfer course to the state and UC systems, learn about engaging in scholarly inquiry, and we're going to understand what academic debate is. So the course format. Except for this first week where you had Module 0 on Blackboard, we will have 2 modules per week. For the most part, the graded learning activities are going to be due Sundays at 11:59 p.m., but there will be other graded learning activities due during the week as well, so that you don't put everything off till the weekend. You can always check Blackboard or the syllabus for specific due dates, and the Blackboard calendar, which I believe you already saw a demo on, will show you what you have due for a given week or month. The materials. So because this is a fully online course, all of our activities are going to take place online. Each of our modules is going to contain lectures, readings, and/or videos, some combination thereof. Depends on the topic we're covering. Obviously, if we're studying cinema, we're going to be looking at more videos. Each module is also going to contain quizzes, reflection responses, peer-reviewed assignments, and/or discussion boards. So these are all opportunities for you to put into the computer what you now know by reviewing the materials. The peer-reviewed assignments and the discussion boards are great because you don't just get feedback from me, the instructor, you also get feedback from your peers. And that opens up the discussion to a whole lot of new perspectives that you wouldn't get if you only got feedback from me. So this is a plus. Probably from your perspective, it's more work, but I think when we provide feedback to other people on how they completed the assignment, that gives us a greater understanding of the topic as well. There will be study teams, and everybody needs to be a member of a study team. Each study team can have 4 people, which works out to 10 study teams of 4 each for this course. Each study team is assigned to prepare a group presentation that will be due during the indicated module. So for example, when we study the United States in Module 9, the group that has a presentation due that week will have a presentation due on an aspect of the United States from a humanities perspective. So arts, theater, music, architecture, etc. Then each study team will need to prepare a group wiki on a different topic to teach other students about that topic. All the wikis are due on December 9th at 11:59 p.m. and everyone in the class will be able to use those wikis to study for the final exam. Of course, if you're preparing the wiki, you probably have a more in-depth knowledge of the subject matter, but you're trying to synthesize the information for the rest of the class. And this helps all of us in understanding the materials and the concepts and how the arts and music and architecture evolve through different eras and different cultures. This is going to be a fast-paced course. We need to cover from 1400 to the present era around the globe in 8 weeks. That's not a lot of time, folks. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the highlights of human culture, the big things that really created a change. If a culture invented a beautiful art form and used it for 20 years and then it disappeared off the face of the earth and wasn't part of an ongoing conversation, we're probably not going to cover it. Starting with Module 9, when we get to the United States of America, or USA, we will be focusing on our studies on how these cultural movements and how developments in the humanities play out in the United States and within countries that the United States is interacting with. We live in the United States, so that's why our focus will be there for the second half of the course. So the way the course is designed with the study teams, the peer review assignments, and the class discussion, that allows us to share the workload. The goal of this course is not for you to be an expert in every era and every art form that's ever happened. That is not possible. People with doctorates in humanities are not experts in all these areas. What we're trying to get to is to have a basic understanding of the thread that runs through all these things, how changes in religious beliefs impact art and architecture, how musical innovations impact cinematic developments, and so forth. So it's going to be the relationships, the kind of what created what, and how do these ideas form a narrative or a story about human development that brings us to our current period, 2018. Okay. If you have questions on the course, the best thing to do is post your question on the Q&A forum. If you email me personally, that's fine, and you can, but then when I provide an answer to you, nobody else will see it. If you post your question on the discussion board, then when I respond to it and provide an answer, then all the other students in the class will have that information as well. So what we're trying to do here is share what we know with each other. That means that if somebody posts a question on the Q&A forum and you know the answer already, you can jump in and provide the answer. And if I disagree with a portion of that, I will make a clarifying remark. So what are the humanities? This is a survey course, so we're not going to be delving too deeply into any one mode of expression and any one culture, but we're trying to understand the human experience. So the humanities are expressions of the human experience throughout time and space. And when we study the humanities, what we're studying, in addition to the art forms and the stylistic techniques and the beauty or lack thereof of different movements, we're studying human hopes, dreams, desires, and beliefs through cultural artifacts. So you may not know what a cultural artifact is. A cultural artifact is something that we can study. It's a painting, a piece of sheet music, pottery, a burial site, anything that exists in the modern era that we can study, even if these objects were created hundreds or thousands of years ago. I mention this because the cultures that we're going to study are cultures that have left behind cultural artifacts for us to study. So, for example, if there was a culture on the face of the earth that existed in 1500 of the Common Era, and they built everything from straw, their cups, their bowls, their houses, all of it, and it burned up or composted and left no trace, we don't know that they existed, or we might know that that culture existed, but they might not have left behind enough artifacts for us to study. So keep that in mind. We only can study the past if we have cultural artifacts from the past to study. So here are two great definitions of the humanities by people far more sophisticated than I am, and I'll leave them up on the screen for a moment for you to read. And if you want to keep reading, just hit the pause button on your video and you can read longer, but we're moving on. So why do the humanities matter? This is a medieval church from somewhere in Europe. Here we have ancient Asian pottery and an old text. We have a Cambodian musical instrument, old books, maps are part of the humanities as well, and of course stained glass windows like we might see in a religious building. This is a high-level list of some of the primary disciplines that we consider part of the humanities. As we go through this course, if literature is really your thing, try and focus your assignments on literature as much as you can if you've been given that option. If, however, architecture is more interesting to you, you might want to focus on architecture. So as we go through this course, we're going to be engaging in academic debate and scholarly inquiry. Scholarly inquiry reveals the assumptions in the written text. So when we read a text or look at a work of art, we want to see what assumptions went into the making of that. Then we have the importance of citing our sources. So when we say scholars have said that this proves something or another, you need to cite scholarly sources. We always want to consider both sides of the argument. So if I say this is a light blue and someone else says this is a dark blue, we want to address why the other person thinks it's a dark blue and then provide proof of why it's really a light blue color. And then we engage in critical thinking skills, which you will use no matter what your major is, no matter what you do after college. Critical thinking is what makes you a valuable person on this planet, what gives you the skills to succeed in whatever area of life you choose to go into, and allows us to think more holistically, especially than compared to some of the sciences where things are broken down into very small and discrete pieces. When we're looking from a humanities perspective, we have the ability to step back and look at the big picture. Or learning how to work with the humanities allows us to see the forest. Some of our other training may allow us to see the trees, and people who can switch between the forest and the trees are very valuable all through this world.